Hold on to your hats, folks, because what just happened on Wall Street is the kind of financial drama that will be talked about for years to come. If you thought the markets were unpredictable before, today's events just rewrote the playbook. We just witnessed a market surge for the history books. The energy on the trading floor was absolutely electric, with traders high-fiving, shouting, and scrambling to keep up with the action. It was as if a dark cloud had suddenly lifted, and the sun came pouring in, igniting a wave of optimism that spread like wildfire. President Trump, in a move that absolutely stunned Wall Street and sent shockwaves through the global financial community, slammed the brakes on his relentless tariff frenzy. For weeks, investors had been bracing for the worst, expecting another round of tariffs that could have sent markets into a tailspin. But instead, Trump threw everyone a curveball. He announced a 90-day pause on new tariffs for most countries, a decision that seemed to come out of nowhere. The press conference was tense, with reporters firing questions and analysts scrambling to interpret what this really meant for the future of global trade. But one thing was clear: this was a major shift in tone, and the markets wasted no time reacting. The markets, starved for good news after weeks of trade war anxieties and relentless volatility, responded with a collective sigh of relief and a buying frenzy. Investors who had been sitting on the sidelines suddenly jumped back in, eager to ride the wave of optimism. The relief was almost palpable, with smiles breaking out across the trading floor and a sense of hope returning to the financial world. This wasn't just a blip on the radar, people. This was a full-blown market eruption, the kind of explosive rally that makes headlines around the globe. Stock prices soared at a pace rarely seen, with trading volume spiking and investors scrambling to get in on the action. It was a dramatic reversal from the gloom and doom that had dominated the market just days before. The Dow Jones Industrial Average, that granddaddy of market indexes, skyrocketed over 2,900 points. Let me repeat that, 2,900 points. That's a leap so massive it left even seasoned Wall Street veterans shaking their heads in disbelief. The sheer scale of the rally was unprecedented, with the Dow posting one of its biggest single-day gains in history. And it wasn't just the Dow making headlines. The S&P 500 and the tech-heavy Nasdaq weren't far behind, posting their own record-breaking gains. Tech stocks, financials, industrials, virtually every sector joined the party as investors rushed to buy up shares at a furious pace. The green arrows on the ticker boards told the story. Confidence was back, at least for now. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. As thrilling as this rally was, it wasn't a victory lap, more like a temporary reprieve from a market that was teetering on the edge of a full-blown meltdown. Investors know all too well that a single announcement can change the mood in an instant, and the underlying issues that sparked the trade war in the first place haven't gone away. Volatility remains the name of the game, and caution is still the watchword for many. The trade war, my friends, is far from over. This pause may have given the markets a much-needed breather, but the road ahead is still filled with uncertainty. Negotiations will continue, and the threat of new tariffs still looms large. For now, though, Wall Street is celebrating a rare moment of relief. A reminder that, in the world of finance, fortunes can change in the blink of an eye. We're talking about the Dow's best day in 5 years. The energy on Wall Street was absolutely electric, with traders and investors alike caught up in the excitement. The Dow Jones Industrial Average didn't just climb, it rocketed upward, leaving even seasoned market veterans in awe. For many, it was a much-needed jolt of optimism after weeks of uncertainty and anxiety. The sheer scale of the rally was enough to make headlines around the world, and for good reason. It was a day that will be remembered for years to come. The S&P 500 saw its biggest single-day jump since 2008, marking the third-best performance in nearly 70 years. That's not just a statistic. It's a testament to the sheer force of the rebound. Investors who had been bracing for the worst suddenly found themselves witnessing a dramatic turnaround. The SP's surge was a clear signal that confidence was returning, at least for the moment. Financial analysts scrambled to update their forecasts, and newsrooms buzzed with the implications of such a historic move. It was a reminder of just how quickly sentiment can shift in the world of finance. And the Nasdaq? Let's just say it had its best day since the dot-com boom was in full swing. Tech stocks, which had been battered by recent volatility, suddenly found new life. The Nasdaq's explosive rally brought back memories of the late 1990s, when every day seemed to bring a new record. For many investors, it was a moment of vindication, a sign that innovation and growth were still very much alive, even in the face of global uncertainty. The tech-heavy index's performance was a beacon of hope for those betting on the future. These numbers weren't just impressive, they were downright historic. The scale and speed of the rebound took everyone by surprise, from Wall Street insiders to everyday investors watching at home. It was the kind of day that gets written into the history books, a rare convergence of relief, optimism, and sheer market momentum. The major indices didn't just recover, they soared, shattering expectations and setting new benchmarks for what's possible in a single trading session. But let's not forget what led up to this moment. For weeks, the markets had been gripped by raw, pent-up fear and uncertainty. Every headline seemed to bring more bad news, and volatility became the new normal. Investors watched nervously as their portfolios swung wildly, unsure of what the next day would bring. The anxiety was palpable, both on the trading floor and in living rooms across the country. It was a period marked by hesitation, caution, and a constant sense of unease. Trump's tariff threats had created a climate of volatility and apprehension. Every tweet, every statement from the White House seemed to send shockwaves through the markets. Investors were on edge, trying to decipher what the next move might be and how it would impact global trade. The uncertainty surrounding tariffs and trade policy made it nearly impossible to predict where the markets were headed. It was a tense, unpredictable environment that left even the most experienced traders second-guessing their strategies. Investors, unsure of what to expect next, were pulling back, sending the markets into a tailspin. The fear of escalating trade tensions led to a wave of selling as people rushed to protect their assets. Market indices tumbled, and the mood on Wall Street turned grim. It felt as though the entire financial world was holding its breath, waiting for some sign that the worst was over. The uncertainty was suffocating, and hope seemed in short supply. But then, almost out of nowhere, the pause button was hit, and my friends, that changed everything. The announcement of a temporary halt to new tariffs was like a ray of sunshine breaking through storm clouds. It was the news everyone had been waiting for, and the markets responded instantly. The relief was immediate and profound, sparking a dramatic reversal that sent stocks soaring. It was like someone had opened the pressure valve, releasing weeks of pent-up anxiety. Traders who had been tense and worried finally allowed themselves to breathe again. The mood shifted from fear to cautious optimism, and conversations turned from worst-case scenarios to new possibilities. The sense of relief was almost tangible, as if a heavy weight had been lifted from the entire financial system. Suddenly, there was a glimmer of hope, a reason to believe that maybe, just maybe, we could avoid a full-blown trade war. The markets had been given a second chance, and investors were eager to seize the opportunity. As the closing bell rang, there was a sense that the worst might be behind us, at least for now. The day's rally was more than just a rebound. It was a powerful reminder of how quickly things can change, and how resilient the markets, and the people behind them, can truly be. To truly grasp the magnitude of this market rally, we need to take a step back and revisit the whirlwind of events that brought us here. The story of the recent market surge isn't just about numbers on a screen, it's about the emotions, the drama, and the global forces that shaped every tick of the tape. So let's rewind the clock a bit, back to a time when optimism was in the air and investors were riding high on a wave of confidence. It wasn't so long ago, but in the world of finance, even a few weeks can feel like a lifetime. Remember the good old days, just a few weeks ago, when the market was hitting all-time highs? The trading floors were buzzing with excitement, and every new record seemed to promise even greater gains ahead. Investors were celebrating, analysts were optimistic, and the mood was almost euphoric. Yeah, those were the days. It felt like nothing could go wrong, and the future looked bright for everyone with a stake in the market. But as history has shown us time and again, the good times in the financial world can be fleeting. Then, almost overnight, the mood shifted. The headlines changed, and the world's attention turned to the escalating tensions between the United States and China. The trade war drums began to beat louder, echoing through boardrooms and trading desks around the globe. Tit-for-tat tariffs between the US and China started to dominate the news cycle. Each new announcement brought fresh uncertainty, as both sides imposed new duties on billions of dollars worth of goods. The world's two largest economies were locked in a high-stakes standoff, and the consequences rippled through global markets. Threats of even more tariffs loomed on the horizon, with both governments signaling that the conflict could escalate further. Investors and business leaders watched nervously as the situation unfolded, knowing that the outcome could impact everything from supply chains to consumer prices. And with all this came a whole lot of uncertainty. Markets thrive on stability and predictability, but suddenly, both were in short supply. Volatility spiked and the sense of unease was palpable on trading floors and in boardrooms alike. The markets, which hate uncertainty more than a vampire hates garlic, started to sweat. Investors scrambled to make sense of the rapidly changing landscape, and fear began to replace the optimism that had fueled the rally just weeks before. The S&P 500, a broad measure of the US stock market, had dipped more than 11% from its February peak. That's a significant drop in such a short period, wiping out billions in market value and shaking the confidence of even the most seasoned investors. We were on the precipice of a bear market, my friends, and things were looking grim. The mood had shifted from celebration to caution, and the world was watching to see what would happen next. This was the backdrop for the rally we're about to explore, a reminder that in the world of finance, fortunes can change in the blink of an eye. The relief among investors was palpable. Chris Brigatti over at SWBC called the market move violent, and I couldn't agree more. It was a raw, visceral reaction to the removal of immediate fear. But hold your horses, because not everyone's popping champagne just yet. Jamie Cox from Harris Financial Group, a voice of reason in these turbulent times, reminded us that trading around Trump's unpredictable tariff policies is like trying to catch a falling knife. The pause is a welcome development, no doubt, but it's a temporary one. The underlying trade tensions remain, simmering just below the surface. Be cool! Buy now! Never one to miss an opportunity for a tweet storm, President Trump took to Truth Social, his favorite digital megaphone, to share his thoughts on the market surge. Be cool, he declared in his signature all-caps style. This is a great time to buy. Now, I'm not in the business of giving investment advice, but let's just say that, taking cues from presidential social media posts might not be the most sound investment strategy. Here's the kicker, folks. The tariff pause doesn't apply to China. In fact, tariffs on Chinese goods actually went up from 10% to a whopping 125%. That's right. While the rest of the world gets a temporary reprieve, the trade war with China rages on. Trump, in his inimitable style, declared, "The ball is in China's court." But with both sides now hitting each other with tariffs, it feels more like a game of economic hot potato, and nobody wants to get burned. So, the markets are breathing a sigh of relief. But let's not kid ourselves, folks. This trade war is far from over. The 90-day pause is just that, a pause. It doesn't address the underlying issues that sparked this trade war in the first place. And don't forget about the universal 10% duties on all US imports that are still in effect. Plus, we've got new sectoral tariffs popping up faster than dandelions in spring. The auto industry, in particular, is feeling the heat. Just when you thought this story couldn't get any wilder, hold on to your hats because it just did. Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, the firebrand congresswoman known for her, shall we say, colorful rhetoric, is in hot water over some suspiciously well-timed stock trades. It seems MTG made some significant purchases in tech, energy, and pharmaceutical companies just before and on the very day of the tariff pause announcement. Coincidence? Maybe. Insider trading? That's what some lawmakers are alleging. Democratic leaders are calling for an investigation, and rightfully so. If MTG used her position in Congress to profit off of non-public information, that's not just unethical, it's illegal. So, here we are, folks, at a crossroads. The markets are breathing a sigh of relief, but the trade war is far from over. The 90-day tariff pause is a welcome reprieve, but it's a temporary one. The big question on everyone's mind is, what happens when the 90 days are up? Will we see a return to the tariff brinkmanship that sent the markets into a tailspin? Or will cooler heads prevail, leading to a lasting trade deal? One thing's for sure. The next 90 days will be crucial. Stay tuned, folks, because this roller coaster ride is far from over.